So we've just taken 3 enterprise systems and turned them into tested, validated agentic toolkits without touching any underlying infrastructure. That was the enablement side, so now the natural question is, what does it look like when this actually runs in production? How do you govern an AI agent operating against your internal systems? Well, let me show you. This is Jentic's production governance layer. It deploys as a VPC inside your infrastructure. The toolkit that we just built has already landed here, ready to be configured for live operation. This is a separate environment from what we were just working in, and it's where you define the rules of engagement before an agent is allowed to touch any production systems. Before any agent can operate, we need to authenticate the toolkit to the real systems using Jentic's secure credential vault. Here you'll find all the relevant APIs that are connected. You simply navigate to the relevant API and authenticate that API against the defined authentication method. For the market prices API, that's HTTP basic auth, so we can paste our credential and bind it against the API. Each credential is scoped to the specific operations defined in the toolkit, so this doesn't give the agent blanket access to the entire market prices API. Instead, it only gives it access to the relevant endpoints that it needs. Credentials rotate on whatever schedule you define, and there's no hard-coded secrets or shared keys sitting in environment variables. The agent never sees the raw credential, it only authenticates through Jentic, and Jentic handles the handshake with the target system on its behalf. What that means in practice is you have a clear chain of custody for every credential, and you can revoke access to any individual system at any time without impacting anything else within the environment. Next, we need to define exactly what an agent is allowed to do with this toolkit. And I mean exactly, not just at the API level, but at the individual operation level. Every operation from the toolkit's workflow is listed here, and I can control them individually. Let's take a look at portfolio positions, for example. Here we can see from the permission rules that the agent is able to read positions, but it will never be able to modify them. It can fetch prices, but it can never place trades. The permissions mirror exactly what the business use case requires and nothing beyond that. I can also set rate limits per operation, so that the agent can call the pricing API 100 times a minute, but if something goes sideways and it starts to hammer the endpoint, it gets throttled automatically before the agent spirals out of control. Let me show you how requests actually flow through Jentic. Crucially, the agent never talks directly to your APIs. Instead, Jentic validates every request against the toolkit's permission boundary before forwarding anything. If the agent tries to call an operation that isn't in its toolkit, then the request is rejected before it ever reaches your system. Similarly, if it exceeds a rate limit, then it's throttled, or if a credential expires, then it's blocked. The key point here is that the agent can't go off script because the infrastructure won't allow it. We're not relying on the agent behaving well, instead it's architecturally constrained. And that's a fundamentally different governance model to what most enterprises are doing with AI agents today. Now that we have authenticated the toolkit and defined which operations it has access to, it's time to connect it to an agent. For this demo, I'll use OpenClaw, but Jentic is completely agent agnostic, and it works with whatever orchestration framework that you're running. In the real deployment, this customer has actually had the agent continuously monitor their portfolio and flag any compliance breaches as they emerge in real time. But that's not the most visual thing to show on a screen, so instead I'll fire off a single request. I'll ask the agent to review my portfolio and tell me if there are any risks or compliance breaches. And just like that, the agent has identified a portfolio imbalance and provided guidance on how to adjust the allocation accordingly. That's the full loop. The agent consumed the toolkit, executed against a real system through Jentic, and then returned an actionable result. Now, critically, from a governance perspective, while that agent was running, your organization had full visibility into everything that it did in real time. Every operation that the agent performed is logged with complete context in an auditable record. If something looks unusual, say the agent starts to call an API at 10 times its normal rate, your team is alerted immediately and they can investigate and act before it becomes a real issue. And if something does go wrong, then the kill switch at the toolkit level will revoke access with just one click. In this case, the agent access is suspended immediately without any need for deployment, no code change, and no waiting for a release cycle. And at any point, you can pull a compliance report showing that this agent has operated within its defined boundaries, every action is accounted for, and there's been no unauthorized operations attempted. That's the kind of evidence that your audit function needs when someone asks how you're going to govern AI across the organization. So that's the full picture. Enablement to get your existing systems agent ready, governance to keep things safe once they're live, manage credentials, scoped permissions, full observability, and a kill switch when you need it, all baked into the Jentic platform. This is how you roll out agentic capabilities across an enterprise, not by hoping the agent behaves, but by architecturally ensuring it can only do what you've defined and proving it with a complete audit trail every step of the way.